officer, which basically means she is on the phone with our staff on a regular basis, probably daily, and is very helpful to us here in Vermont for technical assistance and getting answers to us, and basically I think also serving as sort of in a mediator role when we get an answer we don't like, and we tell Linda, and she runs back and forth, and she's very helpful. So Linda, thank you for driving up from Boston today. And Linda, I asked Linda to pop up and just say a couple of words, if she would, about our role, your role for the State Workforce Investment Board. By the way, the feds are now calling it under WIOA. They're now calling it the State Workforce Development Board. So just as we think we've landed on an acronym that we're all going to get used to, they change things. So, but we will say the SWIB. But if Linda would just say a few words to us.
Very few, because we don't want to drag it out alive. You got to drive that. But I wanted to say thank you, Mr. Coffey, Michelle, Commissioner Noonan, for having me here, and that the SWIB, we still call it the SWIB at the regional office. The SWIB moves the state as far as workforce services, Department of Ed, rehab. As far as teamwork goes, the people who are sitting here and the ones who couldn't make it, you're the prime movers for WIOA and for the state and for the employers and for education, for the youth in school, out of school, and we've never lost sight of that picture, which is why our regional administrator thinks it's important for us to let you know how important you are to us. And it's good to see, I say a civilized SWIB meeting, because some of them aren't so friendly. Vermont is a good state, and everyone knows you guys are handling it the way this is the way it's pictured when they say a SWIB meeting of people who have intelligent dialogue, who have educated ideas. And then I have a good report when I go back to Boston. I'm going to let them know that I enjoyed the meeting. Presentation, all good. So I won't say more than
we still have 2 hours.
I also would like to just say, in preparation for today's meeting, I want to recognize the really significant work that went into this from our chair, Frank Coffey, Michelle Cooper-Smith, Matt Barowitz, and Kevin Stapleton from our LMI division. And I don't know that everyone has had an opportunity to meet Cam Wood. Cam, would you stand up? Cam has been very instrumental, and we're going to look at a couple of documents just now. That's why I'm standing up here with regard to the WIOA implementation. Some people from the legislature may recognize him during the legislative session. Cam works for the Legislative Council. And at the end of last session, he said to me, "Gee, Fisher, would you have any idea where I might be able to find some work to tide me over between the end of the session and when they call me back in January?" And I basically put a handcuff on him to come with me. I knew his work because he serves in some of the committees that I am involved with, and he's been incredibly helpful in terms of the research and implementation work that we've had to do with regard to the WIOA implementation. So many other agencies and state government have sent questions to him. He's been a great resource to the Agency of Human Services and Voc Rehab, even to the Agency of Education, which of course we're all moving forward. So Cam has been really helpful. We really are great to have him, and we're sorry we're not going to have him full time once the legislature takes him back. I also want to mention today, again, thank you, Jennifer, for coming up for Jobs for the Future. We really enjoyed meeting you, and thank you for being here and for your help, and I'm sure you'll get more questions. I also would like to recognize today that a number of our Vermont Department of Labor staff from around the state have joined us today, and I'd like to just mention who they are. We have Jane Fortin, who is Regional Manager for Newport and St. Johnsbury District offices. Cindy Robillard, who is an Assistant Regional Manager. Many people in the Kingdom know Cindy because she was our point person on what we were calling the NEK Collaborative with the Vermont State Colleges and Linden State College. So Cindy has been doing a tremendous amount of work. Sally Gerard from our Burlington District office, also an Assistant Regional Supervisor, and obviously very busy office, the Burlington District office. Dave Lahr, Assistant Director for the Workforce Development Division, serves directly with Rose Lucenti. Susie Wagner is here from our Springfield-Brattleboro region. Susie came over from Voc Rehab to the Department of Labor, and we're really grateful for the perspective she gives us in terms of those services. Maureen Tipman, our Deputy Commissioner, who I think many people know now. Maureen is here, so I just would like to thank everybody. Did I miss anybody from our staff? I don't think so. Thank you guys for driving here today. I also would like to comment, if I could, just very briefly on a few things. On September 15th, by invitation, the Vermont Department of Labor held a job fair at the Sheraton in South Burlington. 100 employers accepted our invitation. So first of all, the first thing I want to do is there are employers in this room who participated, and I want to first say thank you very, very much for sending your staff if you were not able to be there yourself. It was, by all accounts, a very successful day, and I know Governor Shumlin was thrilled to have had you, all of you there, and we really do want to thank you for sending your staff and participating. It was a great event. I also want to just mention that that was a springboard, not intentionally so, for some work that Matt's division and Matt and I were talking about, and he launched with St. Michael's College, and I think you saw some of the press on this. And Matt did a survey, Matt and his staff did a survey of graduating St. Michael's kids who graduated in 2015, and the incoming seniors, and asked a question about their plans to stay in Vermont. And I'm going to be really short, but what we were finding is that a lot of folks were saying, well, I'm not, the kids who were coming in as seniors were saying, well, I'm not planning on staying in Vermont because I hear there's no jobs. So the kids who did stay, the kids who graduated and stayed, when we said, why did you stay? They said, well, because I found a job and I love Vermont and all the things about Vermont that we all know and our tourism division talks about, which is all true. So the governor used our survey plus the job fair with 100 employers, who, by the way, when our staff went and tallied up with each employer, how many openings do you currently have? Of the 100 employers who were in the room, there were 2,000 job openings. And we think that that's a little bit, maybe there were more, because sometimes the employment staffing agencies, the temp agencies, don't necessarily have a full range of their numbers. So the governor said, we need to stop saying there are no jobs in Vermont, because we're influencing kids' decisions. We take all these kids who come to school in Vermont, our own Vermont kids, who think they have to leave. Ellen and I were chatting just a few minutes during the break, and Ellen said, I'm working with all of the agri groups and their food system groups that are looking for employees. We've got to get more into the conversation about, we have openings, we have work. Mm-hmm. So I just want to say, if the governor's message at that press conference was, we need to influence the conversation by asking people to stop saying there are no jobs in Vermont. Lynn.
One other thought I had, though, Michelle chose, I think arbitrarily, a $15 cutoff as a wage, sort of an entry level. We need to be there because it's very expensive to live in Vermont. Right. So a lot of those jobs that Ellen's talking about that are open don't even pay that, and they're terrible hours.
But we were looking. But I want to just point out, our press release was talking about some of the employers that were coming were, IBM, Global Foundries, Dealer.com, Cabot Creamery, very key employers. Some of the who are paying 15 and well above that. So I just wanted to say, let's be really careful in terms of how we discuss our opportunities here in Vermont. That's just okay, that's not what I was standing up to. But I have the floor, and I'm Irish. Okay, the other thing I want to announce is that very excited that we just received notice of, just recently, of our $2.9 million additional grant for apprenticeship. And I want to thank Jerry Ghazi and Vermont High Tech for working with us on that. We should have heard today, and I'm asked Linda if she thought we would, but Department of Labor wrote in conjunction with the Agency of Human Services a grant for Health Pathways Opportunity. Again, a large grant, and I think we're going to get it. We're very confident. I should say I'm very confident that we're going to get it. Again, another great opportunity. We also got a grant for business sector work. So for the businesses in the room, we may be tapping on your door, telling you we've got money to help you. Hey, we're the government. We're here to help. And then in addition to that, obviously, we're still working with our long-term and dislocated worker grant that we received. That's in addition to our regular funding. So I'm really glad that we've been pushing and getting out there and getting grants. I know all of the state agencies are doing that. I know Pat got a grant on the defense
Yep.
industry stuff and.
Defense transition, yep.
Yes, the transition grants, so I think that there's lots of stuff out there, if you're interested in knowing, I'd say, call me, call Pat, and see if there's ways we can connect with you as businesses. But what I am up here to talk to you about is, Cam just handed this out, and this is a little bit about the role of the State Workforce Investment Board under the Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Let's just all learn to say WIOA. We used to say WIA. It's now WIOA. And this is really just a very simple explanation of the 8 points of what the SWIB is asked to do by the Fed under the Workforce Investment Act. Oversight of a one-stop system, development, implementation, and modification of a state plan, creating MOU documents between the parties, oversight of the system and data systems, and budget and administration, trying to solicit input from stakeholders, overseeing employer engagement, and assisting with career pathways. So those are very broad statements, but it was basically taking an 1,140-page bill and trying to summarize what your role as a state workforce investment board is in English and in the most concise way possible. So we're pretty impressed we got it down to 8 points. And what you have in front of you are 2 documents. One is called the MOU between the Vermont Department of Labor and the State Workforce Development Board. Let me just back up a teeny bit. WIOA became law and gave us some immediate deadlines. One was to implement changes to the youth monies, and that applied to both Department of Labor and voc rehab. We were told you can only spend 25% of your money, Department of Labor, Vermont Department of Labor, on in-school youth. 75% of your money has to be spent on out-of-school youth, age 16 to 24. Voc rehab, on the other hand, was flipped on its head and said, you've got to spend money on the in-school youth. So VR and HC Ed have been working very closely to talk about the whole issue of in-school youth and how to best utilize their funding and properly utilize their funding. We were told that has to be done by April 1, this past April 1, and meeting deadlines and changing all of our systems. We've done that. The second measure that we got was the eligible training provider list. And we were told you've got to redo your eligible training or list of eligible training providers, and you have to get people to register their programs if you want to spend Workforce Investment Act WIOA money, if you want to enroll people and you want to charge WIOA, the people who are doing the training have to be registered on your list. So Cam did a lot of work. We didn't bring that document today, but it was a second milestone. We met the deadline, and we actually still have information out there. People are still coming in and applying. Okay, that was a second major milestone with a complete kind of overhaul again. The third piece is we've got to get MOUs established. What you have in front of you today is this Workforce Investment Board's MOU with the Vermont Department of Labor. So let me take you a little bit back down memory lane. As you know, the Department of Labor, Vermont Department of Labor has always been very tightly tied administratively, fiscally, whatever, to the State Workforce Development Board. When it was called the HRIC, when it was called the Workforce Development Council, every iteration of the name has basically been, and actually there's even language in the statute that says the Department of Labor provides administrative support, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that under the new WIOA Act, it basically, you have to authorize that. And it means, and Frank actually signed something recently for us, we actually had to have a letter from the governor and the chair of the Workforce Investment Board for us to be able to draw down the federal money that we use on a regular basis, which is the workforce investment. So we had to have those letters in place. Those are done. So again, meeting milestones as established under this Workforce Investment Act. Thank you for doing that, because these things pop up. This document, if I can, and I don't want to bore you to death, but I do want to tell you what this means and basically what will happen further out, okay? So this basically says, as was mentioned up here, I think somebody mentioned it, the state of Vermont is a single state plan, local area. Why is that so? It's because we are so small in population compared to other states that this feds, we're the size of the city of Buffalo, New York, as a state population, so we are considered a single state plan. That does not mean that we don't have local workforce investment boards, regional workforce development councils. But what it says is that the feds recognize us as a single state plan and you as the single federally recognized workforce investment board. That's the way it is. And that's how it has been. That is no change. So in terms of what does the SWIB do and what does VOL do to help you operate is we draw down federal money for at-risk youth programs, low-income adult programs, that's called WIOA adult, dislocated worker, people who lose their jobs for no fault of their own, and that can be various things, and Wagner-Pizer funding, which runs the 12 regional centers. Okay. In addition to that, not connected to WIOA, just as a reminder, the Vermont Department of Labor also pulls federal funds down for a bazillion other programs to mention, like labor market information, unemployment insurance, VOSHA, trade adjustment, foreign labor certification, mine safety, go on and on and on. So that has been the role. We've been pulling down money on the behalf of the state of Vermont as in essence running one-stops and running the one-stop operators. This says, and I'm going to go through this and walk you through very briefly, page 1, that the 12 job centers, the feds call them American Job Centers. We call them career resource centers. We call them regional offices. The feds say AJCs. So this says that currently there are 12. That's consistent, and that we need to help coordinate our work and the partners' work. Our required partners under WIOA, under a unified state plan, the required partners are vocational rehabilitation and adult education. But there are many, many other partners that we work with. I mean, dozens and dozens, and many of you in this room are also partners under the One Stop, not necessarily under the unified plan, but you are under the One Stop. And in essence, what a one-stop delivery service says is that you'll do career services and training and employment and training activities, and you'll help with the one-stop, and you will provide labor market information. In essence, you'll get people what they need to go to work. That's really what it says. We have to, under this MOU, we would help you, because some of these other partners have to have MOUs with the SWIFT. And we at Labor, under this one-stop operator role, we would help you prepare this. We would basically prep those up and bring those back in for you again. And that would be with like local rehab and adult ed. We would be bringing them back through Frank to you to take a look at again. We're not ready yet with those. The whole concept of one-stop is that when you walk in to our office or to a local rehab office or to any other of the partner organizations, that you are assessed, you know, a thorough review of who you are and what you need, and that we know enough about each other's services that, in essence, we tell you, okay, this is what we can do for you, but oh, by the way, local rehab can do this, and you might want to call adult basic ed, and also, you know, this partner and that partner and everything. So, in essence, we're supposed to do a better job. And for those of us who are long in the tooth, particularly around state government and the term one-stops and all of that, it's sort of like keep your clothes because they come back in style, and keep listening because this is all stuff you've all heard before. People shouldn't have to access things at different points. One of the interesting things is that under WIOA, they're even looking for co-location. And Linda's heard me say this, but I said, you know, that's okay, but you know, lots of places have leases and whatever, but it's virtual co-location. So they expect us to know what we're doing and what our partners can do. That's really the expectation. So it's going to involve a lot more integration and a lot more staff training to basically launch this fully, okay? And that's for all the partner organizations. But our duties as a one-stop is to try to help on your behalf, is to try to help with efficiency, aligning resources and data, that includes computer sharing, sharing customer information, trying to eliminate duplication where we see it, measuring customer satisfaction, and resolving complaints. The second thing, the reason I've mentioned that the second document you have is the complaint and grievance procedure that we have adopted for the Vermont Department of Labor. It's very comprehensive. It's like 10 pages long. It's got lots of federal sites in it. It just goes, the reason you're getting it is one, you're supposed to have it as a SWIB member, but number two, going to show you the depth of which we have to put these things together. That's a very comprehensive document. Thank you, Cam. I spent some time writing, and Cam basically took it and said, how sensitive are you to edits? Because you gotta pull in a whole lot more federal stuff. And I said, okay, take it away. Anyway, thank you, but that is something you need to have. But the other thing is it's a template that some of the other agencies can use. Because if you're taking federal WIOA money, you gotta have a complaint procedure. I would suggest to you that we have to take no pride in terms of authorship. You're welcome to steal it and use it and plagiarize it. The other thing that I want to say for the employers in the room is that one of the things in the 1140-page federal bill, they use the term employment services, employer engagement, employers, business services, something like 7,000 times. So they're really saying to us, you know, what this has to be about is getting employees ready to go to work for Vermont employer community. It's really about the connection point, because in this bill, it's not just what I think we may have seen under prior iterations called WIA, Workforce Investment Act, where it was really participant. Under the WIOA, they talk a lot about employer engagement. And I think that's a good thing, because I think really it moves us away from the train and pray model. We're going to train you, we hope somebody wants you, to you better be talking to the businesses and training for what they actually need. So I do want to mention that that's a big piece of that. That's on page 3. Staff duties will be very much what you're seeing. I mean, most people here who've been around a new Chip knew the kind of work that Chip was doing, and now see what Michelle is doing. And I just want to say that that would be pretty much the same thing, not only convening, but helping put together the information that you need and the work that you need to get done. There's obviously also requirements for the SWIB to bring stakeholders in, look at your MOUs, negotiate performance measures, and help prepare plans. Pretty much everything else in this document, and monitoring, which we will help do if this is what you would like us to do. Everything else, which is like EEO statements and confidentiality and duration and severability, are basically just standard boilerplate required by the Fed. So I put this in front of you today. I guess I would, at this point then, I'll take questions, even though there may not be any. I won't be offended, but I see Janet's got one, so that's great. We do have a few. And then I'm going to actually ask Frank to see if the members feel that we can move forward for a vote of the SWIB members. But let me first take some questions.
So, I definitely don't understand all the governance that goes on, so put that aside, and Frank already said you're working on trying to understand the budgets. My question on something like this is, what are the performance metrics? If you have a responsibility to have a document like this, then the words are great, but what are in our world we call them key performance indicators or KPIs. So where do the metrics get defined, and how do they get monitored, so that if you're signing up for a responsibility, you actually know what's happening?
Right. So the question being, where are the performance measures? So interestingly enough, we are in full steam of adopting and moving under WIOA, and the performance measures have not been released. So what we're working on is basically what we're trying to, I guess, anticipate performance measures that we're seeing mentioned, but the actual performance measures were supposed to have been released on July 1. They are not out. We're anticipating them coming out, but everyone's asking the same question. For DOL, let me just say 2 things. So this document would basically say, this document itself is the operator document. So there's the performance measures here actually go one level below that. That would be the performance measures of actually, because there'll have to be a separate MOU between the SWIB and the Vermont Department of Labor for the performance. The SWIB and voc rehab for performance, the SWIB and adult ed for performance, and that's where those performance measures have come in. Now, DOL has been under federal performance negotiation and measures on our programs for years. So this to us is not new, and we set negotiated performance measures with the U.S. Department of Labor. So we're just waiting to see what those new ones are. Voc Rehab has been working with us, and actually their staff is coming to meet with us regularly, because they've never had to do the negotiated federal performance measures, so they're trying to get our advice on how do you set those up, how do you do those. Similarly, I don't know if adult ed has ever had to do the federal negotiated measures. They have. Okay, so they know what they've seen this. They know the world and the landscape. So the piece of this is that whatever is developed at the partner level, at the required partner level, the operator would then have to ensure that they're watching what's happening, monitoring those performance, and reporting back to the SWIB if they're being met, not being met, or what are the impediments to meeting those. Does that make sense? Okay. There was another hand. Wait, Cam, did you want to correct something I said? Feel free.
No, I was just gonna mention that the performance measures have to go on the state plan as well, and have to be negotiated with the US Department of Labor and other US departments, so we don't know exactly, what the level of our performance is gonna be required to be. We should know by the next SWIB meeting.
Okay. All right. So, let me just do that. So it's Senator Mullen, and then I took Jeb and then Tom.
So what are the consequences if an MOU isn't executed, and why a 3-year term?
So the well, I guess, right, the immediate consequence, I mean, I think we're probably okay between now and if you want to, look at this for the next SWIB. But eventually, somebody has to do this, perform this function for you. And if it's not DOL, then I think you have to figure out who you want to assume that role, and who would be ready to assume that kind of a role for the board. Because if it's not us, you gotta find somebody who actually has ever done this and knows what it would be.
Andy, my question sort of revolved around were we gonna approve this today or not, but a suggestion might be, it might actually strengthen the MOU, not change it a lot. If some of the 8 points that were listed on this about what the authority and responsibilities of the Workforce Development Board are included in this document. And, cause when I read it, it's all pretty much, what it does is basically designate, the Department of Labor to do everything for this board, which is fine, and I don't have any problem with it, but I just thought, well, it might actually be, if we're having this MOU between the two parties to lay out what are the responsibilities of the board and remind ourselves of what is our authority or obligation. So it's just a thought more than anything else.
Tom and then Tom.
I agree, and my question is a little more specific about that. So for example, on the targets, the measures, I believe adult ed is still negotiating targets at the federal office, but then the question is, what is the SWIB's responsibility relative to those targets and adult ed? That's not clear to me.
Let me just try to comment, and then
Well, I'm not sure I've seen how this board operates and how we make decisions and whether we elect leaderships and is there a document that I just missed that explains those
well,
rules, or?
I'm gonna say that I think anything you knew prior to this, which was under WIA, you probably should sort of forget.
Yeah.
Because WIOA, I shouldn't say that fully, because there is a lot of the same, but there's significant changes. So I think it's almost like you should do this with a fresh set of eyes, everybody.
Well, that was my assumption,
Yeah.
and that's why I was thinking that we would need a governing, bylaws of some sort that would explain sort of our role. I think this carries forward what Jeff was talking about in some ways, but more broadly in terms of the authority and the process, that we need to take.
I will say that I don't know, and maybe other people who are here and been around a long time might know, I'm not sure that whether in prior iterations that there were ever bylaws for the HRIC or the WDC, I never saw them. And I'm not aware of them. And I think under this, because you have such specific federal obligations, that you could suck those into a document and create something, but you may want to look at whether or not, how, in terms of operating. We're trying to ensure that what we're doing is convening, bringing you the information, and following federal provisions of the WIOA for compliance. So that's, we're trying to get back on track, make sure everything's getting done as it needs to get done. But again, throwing out just responding, not answering, per se. Cam, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just gonna comment, Senator Mullen, that's why it was 3 years in the MOU.
they're trying to do is to give a long enough period of time to create some stability so that they're not, because I think they recognize that they've sort of kicked over the apple cart on this thing, with a lot of changes. You know, even just look at, like I described, the youth change, significant change. So I think that what they're trying to do is to, once we've got things in play, they want to see it play out for a little bit. You really can't necessarily look at performance measures in short periods. You know, you really need some of that longevity to see whether or not things are working. That could be it too. I'm just guessing. Yes.
Can I just have clarity on the, preparing the state and local plan for Vermont, because it's so small, there will be one plan that will act as the state and the local?
Yeah, we're, go ahead.
Yes and no. There, because we are a single state, we're still required to create a local plan. There are pieces of the local plan that correspond to pieces of the state plan, so there's some duplication that won't be necessary, but there are aspects of the local plan that are not aspects of the state plan that will have to be done. And unlike other states, the local plan has to be approved, the whole plan has to be approved by the respective federal departments, but the local plan has to be approved by the federal Secretary of Department of Labor, whereas under other states who have multiple local gifts, the local plans are approved by the governor in those states. So that's one thing that's different for us.
So the Department of Labor will prepare both the state and local.
I mean, that's what we're proposing.
All right, I just, I'm sorry, and when I was introducing staff, I didn't look over to my right, and Jason was with us. Thank you, Jason, today for, all the work you do. Thank you. And minutes and other things, thank you. Kim?
I know we should have mentioned one more thing. Some people have asked about what the duties of the board are. The federal government in the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act has a very extensive list of duties that the boards are asked to do, but there's also a section in the state statute that, has the board in consultation with the Department of Labor and the governor creating these things, these being, state plan, memorandums of understanding, among some of the things that we listed on the sheet that we handed out. It's both in, federal law and the state statute.
Thank you.
How about this? I'll put together a work group
You can do high
of,
five.
yeah. Like teaching my 2-year-old
Yeah.
grandson to do that. A small work group of the board, to work on this, get information out to the board, and we'll vote on this at the next board meeting. It sounds like we need some more time to understand it without being open with the board. Is that okay?
I was just wondering, what members of the executive committee now?
We don't have an executive committee anymore, and, that's, you might remember some of the conversation that took place in both House and Congress and your committee at one point about how did that board ever, how did it get constituted? Was it sort of self-appointed? I think, and there was never any real answer, so we've brought everything to the full board since some of those conversations. But it may be a conversation that's worth having again at some point. But there was, as I said, I never could find bylaws, I never could find any authorization for an executive committee to spend a moment, so.
Well, there was one.
I know, but I don't think there was, I think it was a self-created thing, but there was never, I couldn't find any authorization for it.
So nobody from the SWIB has reviewed this document?
This document, no, we put this out for you for today. But we're, again, no rush from, I mean, Frank was probably the only person who had conversations in terms of with us about getting this down to operate.
It seems like Frank would need some help over time.
We're gonna reach out for it.
Yep.
On the executive committee, we decided to bring everything to the full board rather than to do it to a group of 6 people. And thought that we could manage that well. If it isn't working, then let us know and we'll change that. So that'll be part of the things that we reach all know what our responsibilities and duties are and what DOL is as well.
Was started as an executive order, and it started in House Commerce a long time ago, and then Senator Jeffers liked it, and that's what federal act was based on, was our generation helping that.
Good to have the historical.
Nice to have an old person.
Yeah, some of us have been around since. You're not alone.
But you remember,
Yes, you do. Yes.
Greg was the attorney. So, thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
If you don't mind, we need
Yeah,
a little
I
bit
know.
more time with this.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we just want, you have this electronically. You also, I don't think you have a grievance, but that grievance document actually is ours with the feds, but I just wanted to share that because it does talk about what happens when somebody who's trying to access services is unable to access services. So that is, we are required as the Vermont Department of Labor, accepting our own federal WIOA money to have that grievance complaint procedure, but it sort of shows the level of intricacy of what has to be done to implement this act. Anyway.
Senator Mullen mentioned earlier that there is so much more responsibility with this board as it was previously. So what we've tried to do with the earlier meetings is do a lot of information. That's why Matt and Kevin have been here, just giving us a good foundation of understanding what the challenges are and the opportunities are in the state. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. Just Commissioner Noonan had mentioned that this would be a good template for MOUs with other agencies. I'm just curious, what agencies would we have to have MOUs with?
Yeah, I'm shaking his head no.
No, I think the commissioner was saying it was the grievance procedure was a good
The
template
grievance.
for other agencies.
Who has
But-
it done.
But to answer your question, the board has to develop an MOU with all of the required partners in the one-stop center. So that includes Vermont Department of Labor, vocation rehabilitation, education, includes a few private parties or private organizations, I should say, Vermont Associates,
Job
Bill,
Corps.
Job Corps, Native Americans, the Native American program that's run the state, and a few others. I'm wanting to say there's about 13 specific entities, some of which are within the Department of Labor, some of which are within a few of the other departments.
Frank, get a stamp. Get a stamp.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I did want, Michelle, are you coming up on the next section? But before we do that, just wanted to thank Jennifer again for your presentation. It was really good. And the data that you were presenting, a chance of our state colleges is here, Jeff Spalding, and he and his leadership have been going around. They've been talking about the Vermont statistics for a while about what's going on with high school students, especially Vermonters. And we've got, we're looking backwards at statistics. He's looking at right straight in the eye, and we need to get on top of this as fast as we possibly can. So thank you. That was really good. It's good to see. We need information to see what the other states are doing because we can go and try to copy what they are doing, what's working with employers, with our K through 16 system as well.
Yeah, and I have plenty more examples where that came from, so if there are other specific things you wanna find out
Also like to know
about,
how they're funding higher
send me
ed
an
too.
email.
Hey, Frank, can I just say, there's something, my name is Jeff Spalding, I'm the chancellor of the state college, but on behalf of Vermont, just as you go back, you mentioned early college, and just so you know, we have our own variety of early colleges. We do actually have a program called early college.
Okay, thank you.
What most places call early college is more like what we call dual enrollment in Vermont.
Yeah, right.
But every high school student has an entitlement to take 2 college courses as part of their high school career. And then we also have an early college program where, hundreds of Vermont students are actually doing their last year of high school at a college and combining both the first year of college and their
much. Frank did mention earlier, we are heavily into updating a complete inventory of what's happening in the state. It's really timely in terms of the obligations of, under WIOA anyway. Partnerships are now really the way to go. So we're likely to have that before the next board meeting. We'll send it to people and they can just get a better picture of where the money goes, what are the programs that we're doing in the state. So we look forward to getting that to you. Thank you all for coming very much. I think we're set unless anybody has some final questions. We really need your help.
Frank, how are we, is there a next step in terms of that group that you were talking about? Who's gonna?
Yeah, I'll
lead us
get
forward?
together with Danny and we'll appoint a good sized group, not a huge group. And then we'll have that group communicate. We'll work with staff to help us and we'll communicate with the full board, as we move along, and then we'll bring the MOU back and hopefully like a month before, at least 3 weeks before the next meeting, so that we have time, everyone has time to work on it or advise us on edits. So we appreciate that.
And but it'll be both the organizational piece of how we function as a.
Yes, it'll incorporate, Jeff brought up some great points, so that we understand in a succinct way what our job is, what our role and duties are as well. Thank you all.